And I quote, "Go F yourself." Such a lovely sentiment that Senator Rand Paul's chief strategist tweeted about Dr. Anthony Fauci in response to Fauci giving his opinion this week on the future of masks, that they might be a, quote, seasonal thing. Classy retort. Well, think of this as trickle-down semantics, because Senator Paul is also trolling Fauci ahead of another hearing appearance this morning on the pandemic, which has now claimed nearly 600,000 American lives. In response to Fauci saying he's being politicized by extreme people, which is just a fact, Paul replied, "Looking forward to tomorrow's hearing, Dr. Fauci," passive-aggressive exclamation point there at the end. To be clear, Fauci is not immune from questions or scrutiny, but Senator Paul, who's an eye doctor, approaches these hearings as if they're a WWE match, only instead of titillating a witting crowd, he blows disinformation all over them.
As much as I respect you, Dr. Fauci, I don't think you're the end all. I don't think you're the one person that gets to make a decision.
I have never made myself out to be the end all and only voice of this.
They've developed enough community immunity that they're no longer having the pandemic because they have enough immunity in New York City to actually stop.
I challenge that, Senator. I want, please, sir, I would like to be able to do this because this happens with Senator Rand all the time. You were not listening to what the director of the CDC said, that in New York, it's about 22%. If you believe 22% is herd immunity, I believe you're alone in that.
If we're not spreading the infection, isn't it just theater?
No, it's
not.
not.
The vaccine and you're wearing 2 masks. Isn't that theater?
No, that's not. Here we go again with the theater.
Nothing brings out Senator Paul's propensity to act like an ass, like a congressional appearance by Fauci, and that is really saying something. And not surprising, Paul was one of the only lawmakers who refused to wear a mask on the Senate floor at the height of the pandemic in the winter.
I would like to ask Senator Paul in front of everybody to start wearing a mask on the Senate floor like the entire staff does all the time. I wish Senator Paul would show the respect to his colleagues to wear a mask when he's on the Senate floor walking around and speaking.
Now, Senator Paul also advised Americans in November to toss the mask again at the height of the pandemic.
If you've had the disease or you've been vaccinated and you're several weeks out from your second dose, throw your mask away and tell Dr. Fauci to take a leap.
In Senator Paul's feud with Fauci, he often likes to project.
You could look at Dr. Fauci and say, well, what if the Spanish flu comes back? Shouldn't we wear a mask every year for the rest of our life because someday the Spanish flu is going to come back? See, that's not science. That's sort of emotionalism and fear-mongering.
Fear-mongering. At least Senator Paul is sticking to his area of expertise here.
Are they going to hold me down and stick a needle in my arm? They probably will, because these people believe in the idea that they are so right and that their cause is so righteous that they can inflict it on others. But the fraud happened. The election in many ways was stolen. I don't like the idea of telling private business owners. I abhor racism. I think it's a bad business decision to ever exclude anybody from your restaurant. But at the same time, I do believe in private ownership. But I guarantee it is one of their long-term goals to have, one sort of borderless mass continent. I think there are things that went on at the Clinton Foundation that are going to shock people. Anybody heard about Ebola? It's all over the place. Is this going to be a terrible thing that runs throughout the United States? I think nobody knows. But it is in a very dangerous situation, and the president ought to be a little bit more focused on.
Just to fact check, the Clinton Foundation was cleared by the Trump administration, no less. And on that last one, he was talking about Ebola. He was really worried about it under a Democratic president. 9 people infected with Ebola returned to the U.S. 2 nurses were infected, and one of those travelers died. But a pandemic that has claimed more than 500,000 American lives, Paul isn't nearly as concerned. He jettisoned his own beliefs about personal responsibility when he was exposed to the coronavirus early on. Knowing he was exposed to the virus, he still decided to hit up the Senate gym and do laps in the pool while he waited for his test results. That visit to the gym exposed his colleagues, many of whom are in the high-risk category, because he ended up testing positive, becoming the first senator that we're aware of to be infected. And for a guy who's championed herd immunity, he sure has a history of casting doubt on the vaccines that could safely get us there. He says he's a proponent of them, but
Yet it is wrong to say that there are no risks to vaccines. Even the government admits that children are sometimes injured by vaccines.
I've heard of many tragic cases of walking, talking, normal children who wound up with profound mental disorders after vaccines.
Now, in December, despite having the privilege and opportunity to be among the first Americans vaccinated, Paul said, quote, "I have not chosen